Welcome back to Mind and Magic. Today we're going to talk about the correct way to pray to actually get your prayers answered. Let's get into it. Alright, so I have talked about this in the past, both on my channel and in my programs, but it has been a number of years, and the videos I talked about are quite old at this point, with not a lot of views, so I thought I'd go over it again as a refresher, because I think this can help a lot of people, especially coming off of the previous video, where I talked about some of it there. Because a lot of people pray without ever having their prayers answered, even though Scripture says, "Ask and ye shall receive." So you asked by praying, but you haven't received anything. Why? Well, that's because you didn't ask correctly. There is a correct and incorrect way to pray, to ask for things from the divine source. And I'm a professional expert on this topic because I'm a magician, and magic is the correct way to pray. That's really all it is. So let's really get into the weeds with this one and go over each aspect of how to pray correctly so that your prayers are actually answered. We're going to school some more Christians today because I know a lot of Christians whose prayers are never answered because their church leaders have taught them to pray incorrectly. They fold their hands together, which they don't even know is a symbolic gesture representing the connection between both hemispheres of the mind, combining the conscious with the subconscious, combining both halves of the mind. And this is important. We will get to it. So they fold their hands and they pray, or rather plead. Most do not even attempt to pray until something's wrong, which is the absolute worst time to do so, because desperation is a state of mind in which prayers will not be answered. Your state will be reflected back to you, therefore your desperation will become more desperation. Therefore, what you'll need first and foremost is a proper state of mind. And there are several ingredients to this proper frame of mind, so let's go through them one by one, beginning with you need to be relaxed and calm the F down. To understand why this is fundamentally important, you have to first realize that your brain is a transmitter and receiver, meaning it both receives and transmits frequencies. And simply put, your prayers aren't being answered because you're transmitting on the wrong frequency. Your prayer requests aren't getting through. Most of your waking day, you are operating in the beta frequency. Beta is very logical, it's analytical, and it's also very busy. This is our default state of consciousness. The problem is that this is not the default state for the divine source. And so there's this disconnect. So in order to connect, we need to drop it down to the level of the subconscious where the divine resides. At the very least, getting to the alpha frequency, but if we can manage it, the theta frequency is the most desirable state for that cross communication with the divine. And as a side note, if you're having difficulty in the area of romance, love, and relationships, may simply not be relaxed enough and are constantly operating in beta. This is where alpha and beta come from, the brain waves that you're transmitting. Betas are nervous, jittery, kind of creepy because they're stuck in their analytical mind to where they can't even approach and talk to somebody. Where on the flip side, alphas are confident. And a lot of that confidence comes from being relaxed. That's the difference. Confident and relaxed. They're not all stuck in their head trying to think of the next thing to say. They just go with the flow. And I don't want to get off onto a whole tangent on that. I just wanted to point out the correlation in that the brain waves that you're transmitting from have a lot to do with it. So we need to get into a relaxed state to get into alpha and then theta. So how do we do this? Well, we meditate. We do breathing exercises to help us get into those relaxed states of mind. This is the main reason we do meditate, to where we can enter into the alpha and theta frequencies so that we can actually communicate with the divine. We can both transmit our requests and receive replies. People have been telling me for years that I come out with the right lesson at the right time, and they ask me how I do it. Well, this is how. Because the divine tells me what to talk about most of the time. As long as I'm able to get in a good meditation, then there's a good bet that the divine is going to give me a topic to speak on. Because I'm able to drop myself down into the alpha state at will through hypnotic anchors and triggers, and then work my way down to theta from there. So meditation is not optional in the process. If you want to get on the same bandwidth frequency as the divine, you are going to have to practice meditation. And the more you practice it, just like any other skill, the better you're going to get at it. And if you've installed some hypnotic anchors through self-hypnosis, then you can get there almost instantaneously by triggering those anchors. Now, let's talk a bit about meditation because there's a lot of misinformation on the subject of it floating around out there. Back when I started teaching on YouTube back in 2012, I was one of a handful of people teaching on the subject of ceremonial magic. There were a lot of authors in the book space, but not a lot of people doing videos and YouTube on it. But fast forward to today, and everybody and their grandmother has a YouTube channel on the subject of magic and the occult, and many of those don't have much experience. I've been doing magic longer than a lot of them have been alive. I mean, just think of that. That's kind of crazy. And so it's no wonder that there's a lot of false information out there. I recently heard a well-known person, I'm not going to bring up their name because I don't want to embarrass them, who said that just clearing your mind is not meditation. Well, it is meditation. There's more than one kind of meditation. It's just not a meditation that you're familiar with. There are different meditations for different reasons. Just clearing your mind and not focusing on anything is a very important type of meditation. It can help lower you down into alpha and then theta once you have practiced it enough. But clearing the mind also helps you listen to the divine. You are halting your brainwave transmissions so that you can receive transmissions. How are you going to listen to the divine if you don't get your mind to shut up? Now, when you first start this kind of meditation where you're trying to clear your mind and not really think of anything and just sit there, in that silence, you will discover all kinds of background chatter that you got going on that you didn't even know about. And when this happens, you will realize just how overactive the mind really is for most people. By default, there's all kinds of chatter going on in the background. And at first, you just need to be an observer, or rather a listener to it, and take note of it. Don't try to stop it. Just let them play out and take note of things going on in the background, or just even gibberish and nonsense. Now, eventually, we're going to quiet all that chatter down, but for now, we just want to take note of it and observe what is actually going on. Now, the other main type of meditation, instead of clearing your mind completely, is to focus on something very intently to the exclusion of everything else. Perhaps you're seeking answers, so you would focus intently on a question over and over and over while relaxing. And then when you clear your mind to listen, you may get an answer, or it may just pop into your head later after you've forgotten about it. You can focus on an object or a situation, and details about that object or situation that you hadn't thought of will be given to you. Or you can manifest something by focusing on it while using all of your senses while doing so, making the most vivid visualization that you can. Claim it and be grateful for it as if you already have it. And as long as you let it go afterward, then it should come to pass and manifest. I do this routinely, especially with hard-to-find items, for my practice and my temple. The point being, if you're going to use relaxation and meditation to manifest things, It is a precise formula, and part of that is not needing it. Make sure that your happiness does not depend on it, because that is evidence of being in scarcity and operating from a position of lacking. And in order to manifest in this way, you're going to need a lack of lacking. And that's really all there is to it. That is the correct way to pray. Relax and get into an alpha or theta state of mind. Meditate and focus intently on what it is you're praying for. Claim it, and then let go of your need of it. And if you use this precise formula in this order, in this way, lo and behold, your prayers will begin to be answered. This is what magic is, the correct way to pray. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and I invite you to come along and join us over at Patreon, where you'll get early access, exclusive content, and even some paid programs as part of the deal. Check out my website, mindandmagic.com, and I will see you next time. Take care.
The magician.